Hey everybody, let's be honest. Who doesn't love a good cup of coffee? I mean, it's like a warm hug in a mug, right? But get this, there's a whole lot more to your morning pick-me-up than meets the eye. We're diving deep into the world of coffee. And trust me, you're gonna want to grab your favorite mug for this one. From its bizarre origins to some surprising health benefits and traditions that'll make you say, huh? Get ready to have your coffee knowledge rocked harder than a double shot of espresso. Alright, picture this. It's like way back in the day in Ethiopia. This goat herder named Kaldi, he's just chilling with his goats, living the pastoral life. Suddenly the goats start going bonkers, like headbutting trees, doing the jitterbug, you name it. Kaldi's like, what in the Ethiopian highlands is going on here? Turns out these goats had been munching on these bright red berries from a certain tree. Yeah, you guessed it, coffee cherry. Now Kaldi, he's a curious dude. So he tries these berries himself and bam, he's hit with this burst of energy. He's like, whoa, these things are like tiny energy drinks. He decides to share his discovery with some local monks, figuring they could use a little pep in their step during those late-night prayer sessions. The monks, they're skeptical at first, right? But they give these berries a try, brew them up, and boom, they're wide awake, chanting up a storm all night long. Word got around, and well, the rest is history. Who knew our caffeine addiction could be traced back to some groovy goats? Okay, this one's gonna blow your mind. Prepare to have your coffee world flipped upside down. Those little brown nuggets we call coffee beans? Yeah, they're not beans at all. It's a conspiracy, I tell ya. No, but seriously, they're actually the seeds of a fruit called a coffee cherry. Yep, a cherry. These cherries grow on coffee plants, and inside each one, you'll find two little coffee beans just chilling. So how do we get from cherry to that delicious cup of joe? Well, first, those cherries are harvested and processed to remove the outer layers, leaving us with the green coffee beans. Then comes the magic roasting. This is where the beans transform, developing their rich color, aroma, and flavor. It's like a science experiment, but instead of explosions, you get deliciousness. Okay, so imagine this. It's the 16th century, and coffee is the new kid on the block, causing a stir everywhere it goes. People are gathering in coffee houses, debating philosophy, politics, you name it. It's like the social media of its time. But some folks weren't too thrilled about this whole coffee craze, especially in Mecca. They saw these caffeinated gatherings as a threat, a breeding ground for radical ideas. Can you imagine? They thought coffee would make people too, woke and stir up trouble. So guess what they did? They banned it. Yep, coffee was outlawed in Mecca for being a little too stimulating for the status quo. It's funny how something as simple as a cup of coffee can be seen as a tool for revolution, right? It just goes to show coffee has always had a way of bringing people together and sparking conversations, even if those conversations sometimes ruffle some feathers. Coffee, the brain's best friend. Alright, let's talk about why coffee is basically the superhero sidekick to our brains. We all know that feeling, right? That afternoon slump hits, your eyelids are heavier than a bag of coffee beans, real ones, not those cherry imposters. And you can barely focus. Enter caffeine, coffee's secret weapon. This magical compound swoops in and saves the day by tricking your brain into thinking it's not tired. See, there's this chemical in our brains called adenosine, which builds up throughout the day, making us feel sleepy. Caffeine basically impersonates adenosine, sneaking into those brain receptors and blocking the real deal from doing its job. The result? You're alert, focused, and ready to conquer that to-do list. No wonder coffee is a staple for students, professionals, and anyone who needs a little brain power boost. The poopatively pricey coffee. Okay, brace yourselves because this next one is a wild ride. Remember those coffee cherries we talked about? Well, there's a coffee out there that takes the whole from bean to cup journey to a whole other level. Introducing Kopi Luwak, the world's most expensive coffee, and get this, it's made from poop. Yep, you heard that right, poop. This coffee comes from Indonesia, where these little critters called civet cats roam free. These furry coffee connoisseurs have a thing for the tastiest coffee cherries. They gobble them up, the beans ferment in their gut, and then, well, nature takes its course. Here's the kicker. The civet's digestive system actually breaks down some of the bitterness in the beans, giving Kopi Luwak a smoother, less acidic flavor. Now I know what you're thinking. Poop coffee? No way! And you know what, I don't blame you, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. Plus, there are some ethical concerns about how the civets are treated in some cases. But hey, it's definitely a conversation starter, right? Instant coffee, a blast from the past. Alright, let's take a trip back in time to 1771. The American Revolution is still a few years away, powdered wigs are all the rage, and guess what? Instant coffee is invented. That's right, those little jars of instant coffee have been around for way longer than you might think. A British chemist named John Dring gets the credit for this invention, and while it didn't exactly take the world by storm back then, it did lay the groundwork for the instant coffee we know, and let's be honest, sometimes rely on today. Fast forward to the 20th century, and instant coffee becomes a wartime staple. It's easy to transport, quick to brew, and provides a much-needed caffeine boost for soldiers on the go. After the war, its convenience made it a hit with everyday folks too. Sure, it might not have the same artisanal flair as a pour-over, but hey, sometimes you just need a quick fix, right? Alright, time for a history lesson, but don't worry, this one's caffeinated. So we all know about the Boston Tea Party, right? Colonists dumping tea into the harbor, sticking it to the British, all that jazz. But here's a fun fact, that little act of rebellion actually led to a surge in coffee's popularity in America. See, after the Boston Tea Party, drinking tea became a bit unpatriotic, right? So, people needed a new beverage to get their caffeine fix, and coffee stepped up to the plate, becoming the drink of choice for freedom-loving Americans. Coffee houses became hubs for political discussions and revolutionary plotting. It's like the founding fathers were fueled by caffeine and democracy. So next time you're sipping on a cup of joe, remember, you're partaking in a beverage with a long and patriotic history in America. Finland, the coffee kings and queens. Alright, let's talk about Finland, the land of saunas, heavy metal, and apparently coffee. These folks take their coffee seriously, like really seriously. We're talking about a country that consumes more coffee per capita than anywhere else in the world. The average Finn drinks a whopping 26 pounds of coffee per year. That's like a whole reindeer's worth of coffee. Coffee is woven into the fabric of Finnish culture. They even have a word for it, kahvi. Whether it's enjoying a cup during their morning sauna ritual, taking a break for kahvipausi, coffee break at work, or gathering with friends for kahvitelu, coffee time. Coffee is an essential part of daily life in Finland. So if you ever find yourself in Finland, be prepared to keep up with their coffee consumption. You might need an extra large thermos for that. The coffee that could fuel a rocket ship. Okay, this one's for all you caffeine junkies out there. Imagine a coffee so strong it could power you through a week of all-nighters. Introducing Black Insomnia, a coffee brand that's not messing around when it comes to caffeine. We're talking a whopping 702 milligrams of caffeine per 12-ounce cup. That's like 7 times the amount of caffeine in your average cup of coffee. The creators of Black Insomnia claim it's the strongest coffee in the world, and honestly, I believe them. This stuff is not for the faint of heart. It's like a shot of espresso straight to the veins. Now, while the idea of staying awake for a week straight might sound tempting to some, it's important to remember that too much caffeine can be a bad thing. We're talking jitters, anxiety, insomnia, the bad kind, the whole 9 yards. So, maybe stick to 1 cup of Black Insomnia, and then switch to decaf for the rest of the week, okay? Decaf, the Swiss waterway. Alright, for our final coffee fact, let's talk about decaf. Now, I know what you're thinking. Decaf? That's not real coffee. And you know what? You're entitled to your opinion. But for those who enjoy the taste of coffee without the caffeine kick, decaf is a lifesaver. And guess what? There's a way to decaffeinate coffee without using harsh chemicals. It's called the Swiss water process, and it's basically magic. Okay, not really magic, but it's pretty cool. This method uses just water and osmosis to gently remove the caffeine from the beans, leaving the flavor intact. It's like the caffeine molecules are gently escorted out of the beans and into a caffeine-free paradise. So, if you're looking for a decaf option that tastes great and doesn't involve any funky chemicals, Swiss water process decaf is the way to go. You get all the flavor and none of the jitters. That's a wrap! What blew your mind? Wow, that was a wild ride through the world of coffee, right? From dancing goats to poop coffee and everything in between, I bet you never knew there was so much to learn about your favorite morning beverage. So, tell me in the comments which coffee fact surprised you the most. Have you ever tried any of the more unusual coffees out there, like Kopi Luwak? And hey, if you enjoyed this caffeine-fueled journey, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more fun facts, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next adventure.